Hello, welcome to Local Edition. I'm Leslie Leighton. Well, it turns out being a good neighbor can be part of a good disaster preparedness initiative. That's the case in Anaheim. And here to explain more about that is our good neighbor and mayor, Tom Tait.
Thank you very much
for being in here. So you have this High Neighbor initiative, and it's even being recognized on the national level. How did that come to be? Tell us about that.
Well, we've been working on this High Neighbor initiative for a few months now, and someone at Washington took notice, and they invited me back this last week for the 9/11 summit. And essentially, Washington has determined that they've studied communities in the wake of disaster, and some communities have done well, and some not so well. And they've tried to figure out what that is, and it's something that they call resiliency. When a community is resilient, then it responds well. And
well, resiliency to me means ability to be flexible and bounce back. So what does that have to do with us getting along as neighbors?
Well, it has everything to do with getting along as neighbors. Essentially, resiliency, they talked about the response after 9/11 and how, gave an example of how the community bounced back. And it's based on relationships. And it's nothing that necessarily the government can do, but it's people knowing and caring for their neighbor. And from that, all sorts of good things happen.
Mm-hmm. Because that's really what we see in our everyday life is our neighbor, and it's helping the person next door. But I can also see how, you know, in policing and emergency preparedness, if we can help each other like that, it really helps in the big picture with any disaster. They say you're supposed to be prepared to take care of yourself for a while after a disaster.
Right, and you know, when these big disasters happen, and we've seen what happened in Japan and back east, and as heroic as our first responders will be, these big disasters will overwhelm them. So it's going to be neighbor looking after neighbor.
What is it about Anaheim and the people in Anaheim that we have been recognized as being more resilient, more good neighbors? Has this been promoted? I mean, are people even aware of this?
Well, they're starting to get aware of it in Anaheim. And again, Washington has taken notice of our High Neighbor program, mostly because it's not a city-managed program, but really what it is we're leading and inspiring people to get out of their house, get out from off their couch, and knock on their neighbor's door and say, you know what, it's important that we connect as a neighborhood. Because when bad things happen, we're going to need each other. Yeah,
so specifically, what does that look like? If I'm thinking, okay, I'd like to be nice to my neighbor and to be better prepared for a disaster, what do I do other than say hi? I mean, are there specific efforts we can do to make this a better thing?
Well, you know, actually just getting to know your neighbor is a big first step. And when that happens, good things will follow. But specifically, we'd love to see the neighborhoods get together and talk about community policing. Get to know one another, maybe have the phone numbers of everybody on the street, email addresses. So if somebody's on the street who doesn't belong, simply calling them up, your neighbor, and say, hey, is that van out in front of your house? Do you know them? Should they be here? That type of thing. Or if when that disaster happens and the roof collapses of somebody 5 doors down, you need to know who's living there. Mm-hmm. To help them out.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Just being able to know, you know, if there's an older person living next door, if you need to check on them, or a young family who might need some help, or maybe even putting your heads together for some disaster preparedness kit. Not a bad idea.
Well, you know what? It's usually a group of people make better decisions than if you're by yourself, right. And that's what this is about.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
All right.
Good neighbor.
Hey,
and thanks for tuning in. More HLN next.